Hey chefs, welcome back to Pizza Friday, where this week I'm doing Pizza Friday Presents Pizza 101. We are going to do a presentation over making some pizza together. Now, I don't know if you listened to last week's episode, but this is the Princess Peach pizza that I ended up making for Pizza Friday last week. It was incredible. It had pepperoni. I also added hot honey because, of course, you need to. Sliced peaches, mascarpone cheese, and super chopped pistachios. It was so good. I honestly want to make it again already. So yeah, let's have some fun with pizza and just kind of learning the basics. So first is the dough. I talked about a lot of this last week. My favorite dough to use right now is the ready to bake Trader Joe's pizza dough. It also comes in herb flavor and gluten free. And it's all about under $2, which is really great in terms of pizza dough prices. Now, maybe you don't have a Trader Joe's near you. You can always go to your other local grocery stores. I know Kroger carries it, so that means Fred Meyer also carries it for those of you who live on that part of the coast. I live on the East Coast, so I have ShopRites and Trader Joe's and things like that. I just have to be careful because I do have a soy allergy, so I cannot have the Kroger dough or the one that they have at ShopRite or some other local places because they now have soy flour in it. So just be careful when you're looking at your dough if you do have any allergies like that. But biggest thing with the dough, you have to do some prep work for it. You can't just pull it out of the fridge and immediately use it. Even on the bag, think it says that you have to use it or set it out for at least an hour. For me personally, though, I do it for the whole day. So yesterday, I took the dough out at about 10:30 in the morning, and I got my bowl out. I lined it with some flour at the bottom, and then the second picture actually shows you what it looks like after I tucked it into a ball from that kind of blob shape it was when it came out of the bag. And that's the back side of it. So you can see how I tucked the dough in underneath itself. Then I kind of plopped it in the bowl and then added a little bit of flour on top. I don't know why I do. I just feel like it works better. And that's kind of how we always did dough at the pizza shop. Then we cover it with plastic wrap and just let it sit on the counter in a warm spot. Maybe that is going to be on top of your dishwasher. Maybe it's going to be near a window or anything else like that. Just keep it there because your dough is going to need to rest and rise so you can use it later. Then the next thing that we're going to talk about is the sauce. Personally, I like to use jarred sauce sometimes, but yesterday I was feeling fancy. So I actually made homemade vodka sauce. Vodka pizza is now one of my husband's and my favorite pizzas combinations. We didn't have it until we moved to New Jersey. And I have been chasing that high of the vodka slides that I got at a place called Johnny Napkins for a very long time now. So I just keep trying and making it. And this is a really good recipe. Biggest thing is you just need to get your onions and your garlic situation. You added in your red pepper flakes, some sugar, salt, because you do have to season your onions and garlic. Let it sweat down for a bit. Add in half a cup of handmade vodka. I don't know why I said handmade vodka. It's just Tito's vodka. I got caught reading it. Then I should be sponsored by Trader Joe's, to be honest. I use a 28-ounce can of crushed organic tomatoes. Dump that in there. You will notice that the basil in picture 5 is in the shape of a bee. That is because my garden has too much basil. So I make frozen basil cubes, or as we call them, basil bees. And I just threw in a couple of cubes of basil. Then picture 6 is what it looks like after you've let it cook down for about 10 minutes on a higher heat. And picture 7 showcases what it looks like after you add heavy cream to turn it into that vodka sauce color that we all know and love. But don't worry, guys, I have the recipe for you. This is something that I adapted from a recipe I found from Alex Cornicelli because she made a vodka chicken parm recipe and I wanted to make it a little bit saucier. So instead of using a 16-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, I used the 28-ounce can. And there's a lot of different things you can do for it. But go ahead, pause, copy down the recipe. It is tried and true. It is great. It does make a large mason jar worth of sauce, plus a little extra, but I used a little extra for the pizza. So it works out great, especially when I'm doing it day of. But now let's talk about actually making your pizza. So we've gathered our supplies that we've made, which is the sauce and our dough, which is now risen. And you can see it's kind of bigger and fluffy, and that's what we're looking for. So I started doing this at about 6:15 last night First thing I did though was set the oven to 450 degrees, grabbed my pizza stone, put it in the oven so it can heat up with the oven. If you put a cold pizza stone into a hot oven, it can crack in half. I've heard many horror stories and it scared me, so I've never done that. Then you're gonna need parchment paper, a large cutting board, your pizza toppings, a pizza cutter, and a spatula. The spatula sounds kind of random, but trust me, you're gonna need it. Assembling the pizza, you are going to take your dough and a piece of parchment paper and put it onto the parchment paper. Add a little bit more flour, press it out into that pizza round that you want. Now, this is where you can kind of cut up your dough, make it into two. You can do a calzone, you can do something else. It's really up to you. Be careful when you're stretching your dough, though. You don't want to have too many thin spots because it could affect the way your pizza is going to cook. Then you are going to add your sauce. Spread it out. You want to be able to see parts of the crust through the sauce because if you add too much sauce, you can make your pizza super soggy. Then add cheese. Once you do cheese, look at picture 7 and pay your cheese tax to your dogs, especially if they've been good boys or just, boys. It's okay. They deserve cheese. Then add your toppings. This time we only just did pepperoni. I didn't try to get too fancy, but I also like to add pineapple because I am pro pineapple, or maybe even black olives, or onions, sausage, go crazy. See what's up. It's pizza. It's supposed to be fun, right? Then you are going to bake or cook the pizza. So this is where I forgot to mention, you're going to want to go ahead and slide a large cutting board underneath your pizza to act as a pizza peel. But you're going to want to do that while your pizza is still only probably just sauce. Don't do your toppings yet because I have slid it onto my cutting board before and it has kind of been destroyed because all my toppings got messed up. It flipped over. It was a whole thing. So you're going to actually grab the parchment, slide it onto the pizza stone from your cutting board, and let it hang out in the oven for 5 minutes. When the 5 minutes are up, you are going to actually use your spatula, pull up the pizza a little bit, and then you are going to take the parchment paper under or out from underneath the pizza. This is going to help the bottom crisp up a little bit more, especially when it's directly on that pizza stone for contact. After that, you're going to cook it for about 8 to 10 minutes. We do about 8.5 minutes because that gets us to the desired melty brown cheese that we're looking for, and the pepperoni is starting to crisp up just a little bit. Then I actually use the spatula again to help scoot the pizza onto the cutting board, and I transport it, and I actually put it on a wire rack just so it can kind of cool off just a little bit better where everything kind of sits. You cannot immediately cut your pizza because all of your toppings are going to fall off. So I found if you kind of let it go on a rack, it gives you just a little bit more cooling, and if you left it on a plastic kind of cutting board, it can actually warp your cutting board pretty badly. So that's why I cut the pizza on a wooden cutting board. But this, while it's cooling, is where you can actually add your finishing touches. Maybe you want to add some fresh basil. Maybe you want to top it with Parmesan or pizza seasoning or garlic, salt, and hot honey like I did last night. And that's all you need to do. Then you can go ahead and you can cut your pizza because at this point, it should be nice and cool and good for you to use. And now it's time to eat. As you can see, I also made some garlic knots last night. That is another huge New Jersey thing that I have quickly become a big fan of. Those were homemade that I made earlier this week. Popped them in the freezer and then took them out and cooked them at 400 while my pizza was cooling off. So I take the stone out and then I pop the garlic knots in and let them heat up while my pizza's resting, and I cut it and I kind of assemble everything else and serve it with some sauce on the side. But that's it. I hope this encourages you to go out and make your own pizza. It's pretty fun. It might take you an hour at most, including the oven heat up time and getting everything ready. Definitely does not include the resting time for your dough, but it's something you can get done pretty quickly before heading out to work, like I used to do all the time. But that's it. So, chefs, I hope you make some pizza. I think it'll be pretty good.